Hello, folks. Welcome one more time. It is said you must accentuate the positive and eliminate the negative. That's our maxim here on Enterprise TV. And on Homo Politicus, we are the friendly octopus that claws at anything that captures the headlines. Hear this. Corruption, a country's albatross, recovered loot returned to owners. Now, corruption, a 10-letter word, is undoubtedly an element that induces a false sense of well-being in the society, directly affecting the overall development and also causes inexplicable moral and physical degradation to the coming generations. Consider the following. A former chairman of the Special Investigation Panel for the Recovery of Public Property, Okoye Ubona Obla, has alleged that the loot recovered by his panel under former President Muhammadu Buhari were returned to the looters. Now, that is corruption in action, if you ask me. And it goes to underscore what the likable first chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, now National Security Advisor, NSA, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, said. According to him, when you fight corruption, it fights back. Again, former Economic Affairs Minister, now World Trade Organization, WTO chairperson, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, wrote a primer, Fighting Corruption is Dangerous. Well, she should know. An albatross over our country is corruption. So let's go there. My discussants this morning know what we are talking about. So let's meet and greet them. The unputdownable Cyril Abaku, broadcaster communications expert, is here. Cyril, good morning. Welcome.
Thank you, Cyril.
Cyril is joined by the irrepressible barrister Evans Ufeli. Is an attorney at law and a public affairs analyst. Barrister Ufeli, I welcome you.
Good morning. Thank you.
Corruption is indeed a country's albatross. So, as they say, we are already in it.
Yes.
Any way out.
I wonder why the Buhari government ever elected to fight corruption. Because with what Obla just said now, it means that the fight against corruption under the Buhari regime was like taking a poisonous leaf to a purification feast.
Yeah, Cyril, but he came on that plank, Mr. What's it?
Mr. Integrity.
Integrity. And his first coming, you remember the war against indiscipline. So you won't blame Nigerians for opening the doors for him, or would you?
They ought to have known that the man was not, even from the outset, was only making political statements. Statements of campaign. And then when he got into office, all through his years in office,
he became overwhelmed.
They kept blaming the previous government for 8 years why they are not able to fight corruption. Now, he made an attempt by setting up the panel, for example, which was headed by Obla and some other persons. Now, he was kicked out of office based on corruption.
You don't think that was corruption fighting back?
Yes, that was corruption fighting back, because he had certificate scandals and so many other scandals that followed that office and other. Typical of our politicians. There's never a time you find our politicians with complete results. You don't ever see that. So he ran into that very murky water and left unceremoniously. And he's telling us this today because of the way he was thrown out. Otherwise, if he had stayed true with them for the 8 years, perhaps we may not have heard about this. That funds recovered, that there was a case where they recovered almost 80 Mercedes vehicles and some other properties of some sort. And he made inquiries whether they paid duties through the immigration and the custom, and he also...
He was told no.
Yes, FIRS too said that they didn't pay tax, or they have no record of such. And those properties were returned to the owner. So what it therefore means was that there was no fight against corruption during that administration. There were bigger forces who were actually bigger than those who elected to fight corruption. So it was a smoke screen. What we got today is, even today, there are decisions the president wants to take, try to make an attempt to take certain decisions. And some voices will just call from someone and say, don't move an inch. So it tells you that the president is not just the president of Nigeria, but there are invisible forces that actually govern the space called Nigeria.
Yeah.
And if you have that is why the government is able to mention the names or describe those who are funding insurgency and they are unable to prosecute them. Because that voice keeps telling them that don't go there, don't go here.
Because fighting corruption is dangerous.
It's dangerous. It's dangerous. But all the same, a country will have to fight corruption. It has no choice than to fight corruption.
Cyril, welcome again to the fray. Recall Ribadu and the Ibori saga.
Terribly, terribly. In fact, I like to recall an incident involving former Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, when he came into office. It was one of the the earliest things that happened in the morning of the Buhari administration.
Yeah.
That Mohammed was to travel overseas for a trip. And the next thing was there was borrowing money from the NBC for the 13.12 million back then. And
that the National Broadcast
Commission. The minister is borrowing money from the commission. What was the meaning of that? The presidency.
Well, the commission was rich enough.
Well, rich enough
to lend money to government.
But is it proper for a commission to lend money to its supervising minister? In the name of what? Normally, if you want to make a trip, there is extra code. There are provisions for your travel, for lodging and for other things. What do you need money for that? You are now writing to borrow from was not a discussed in S code. Did it go to FEC? Is it government that says you should borrow that money?
Was it budgeted for?
Yeah, exactly. You know, I was going there because any money in the hands of any government agency is from the budget. So even if you are to wire money, is how you by borrowing the money for personal use.
You know, Siri, by mentioning Lai Mohammed, I'm reminded of the whistleblower policy that came in.
And I came to nothing, in effect. Now, where I'm going is this. All of these things were happening under President Buhari. You remember when he even appointed Burate Yanko, and people said Burate had houses in Dubai. This is the man you appointed.
They said he's a snake farmer.
Yes.
That he made his money from snake farming.
Yes, and savings from many years of service. And to buy a house in Dubai.
He used the money used from trading snake to build or buy
a house in Dubai. So all these things were flying. And the point is that, you know, like they say, the morning shows the day. If as government you don't deal with these things early in the morning, early from the start, from the get-go, it means you're laying out a red carpet for corruption. Now, Obono Oblast SPIP, the special investigative panel for recovery of public property, was actually established by Professor Shibajo, right? But was part and parcel because it sat well into the frame of the fact that President Buhari was a corruption-fighting president. It sat well with it. He was appointed to that office. From the man's own confession, okay, let me even begin from the man himself. I thought that normally if you wanted to make an appointment, the DSS weigh in. Because a presidential appointee is a very sensitive thing to make. Especially one who is brought in to fight corruption. The man came in. It was when they didn't have use for him again, they said he forged his WAEC result. You know, of all the things you can bring against, so how do you descend so low?
This day refers to corrupt officials.
And it turned out
they must be corrupt.
It turned out that the man didn't have certificate.
They must be corrupt enough not to want an obla to fit the bill.
Well, again, then they wrote and said that he was suspended or sacked, and that they are going to write to the University of Justice to withdraw his LLB certificate, and that they are going to write to the NBA to debar him. But the whole of that didn't happen. You see, the story shouldn't be that Mr. Obla is claiming I wrote a letter to the NIA and I consulted with the Attorney General Federation Malami to say I want to prosecute this case. And Malami says, "Oh God, go and relax." $69 billion is a lot of money, right? And in any case, even if Malami felt Obla shouldn't take the glory or the shine for fighting that crime, did the government eventually get its way around it? No. In fact, the headline is that they returned loot to looters.
Yeah.
No, in fact, the topic itself, I have problem with the topic we won't have today, that loot return to owners. If it's loot, that means the people who initially had the thing with them were not the owners. The funds belong to government.
If the government has given it back to them, if the government has given it back to them,
you see what corruption is
should have been recovered loot returned to looters.
To looters, yeah. So when you look at it, you now discuss. He made further revelation,
yes,
because he made mention of Magu.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, Magu's problem with the Attorney General of the Federation then has to do with recovered assets.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're on TV, lawyers and the public affairs analysts were saying that the government should create another institution that will manage the assets recovered. That the EFCC chairman and the Attorney General cannot be fighting over who should manage what, when and how. You know, there was a vessel that the EFCC, you know, seized then that belonged to one that's linked to corruption. And they were trying to unravel the proceeds. And it was alleged that Magu had sold, because they had a forfeiture order. The forfeiture order. So normally they would dispose and the money will come to the coffers of government. That he has sold most of these properties to his cronies and all that before the Saudi Arabia issue came in that took him down eventually. You understand? So now Obla is saying that Malami fought him and Magu in that interview by Mike On. Okay, so you can see that now one man that fell under the Buhari's administration is now telling the public, telling us how that administration didn't fight corruption.
At least what he knows, the much he knows about it.
Yes, that it was more of a small screen. What they recovered, they returned.
But Ophelia, let's look at Okonjo-Iweala's mother's kidnap and tie it to this corruption thing, fighting back. You know, she wrote that primer.
Yes.
Fighting corruption is dangerous.
Yes, it was a clear case now. It happened when he started making a lot of revelations. And she was cautioned by the powers that be, and she kept publishing figures and how
that became offensive to corrupt minds.
Yeah, the people then felt it was giving the public too much information. That perhaps the public will rise against the powers that be someday if they keep in this woman and keep pouring this kind of thing to the public. And they got at her. Corruption came back, and she had to write a book about it.
Yeah, seriously, except that I do not buy into the public fighting back, because we had occasions to do so in the past. Recall that former British Prime Minister David Cameron said, if the amount of money looted from Nigeria was done in England, England would have gotten down under. Nigerians were not enraged. And he added, Nigeria was fantastically corrupt.
Which our president also corroborated.
And our president was in the audience.
And then he corroborated it. The fact is, you know, I think what former military president, General Ibrahim Babangida, that said, even he was amazed how that Nigeria still stood, how that our economy still produced.
Given the pummeling the economy had taken.
It had taken, and no less the fact that he himself had been the chief pummeler of the economy. But even he came to the conclusion that he could not explain how the economy still continued to move from day to day. Now, the point to be made is very simple. The Nigerian problem is deeper than we can sit in a TV studio to analyze. But the fact is that people go in and come out, and when they see the realities involved in it, it's either you are ready for the kind of a risk.
Yeah, but it's fairly along the line. I know we had flirted with the idea of a president in a typical country like Nigeria being his own man. Can you go in there and be your own man?
It's difficult to go in there and be your own man, because the interest, there are a lot of interest. In fact, before you got there, there were people, there used to be hand holding in the presidency. Some people will hold your hands to that place. Otherwise, you cannot go there on your own. If you want to yank those hands off, you will get the Peter Obi story. So just go and ask how that internet will stop working. And they will tell you that there was a glitch and there's nothing, you will not be able to survive the shock thereafter. So it tells you that we're in a country where so many remotes, you know, so many hands you cannot see. But the reason I think we did not collapse when that statement was made, I think the Nigerian system did not collapse because the informal sector is so huge and large, and that reliance was not on government. Reliance in this country is not on government. If it were to be some countries that rely solely on every step government takes, we'll be on the street every day. We don't rely on government here. And that is why, even when they do their GDP calculation and all that, they leave a huge chunk of what our GDP should be.
Maybe that's owing to the fact that, as the analysts say, where the level of education has sunken.
Yes, it has. So
the public is not informed?
They are not informed. People generally fall into three groups anywhere in the world. The few that make things happen, the many that watch things happen, and the overwhelming majority of those who have no notion of what happens. So we have an overwhelming majority of those who don't have, they are the ones defecating on the expressway. They have no notion of what happened. They are just there. So whether the government is going or not going, their reliance.
They defecate because you don't punish it.
Yes, their reliance is solely on what they're able to get to eat per time and per day. And they just subsist thereon. Okay?
Yeah.
The other kids are the ones who know what's happening, but they too,
they are lost.
Cannot help it.
Yeah,
they are very lost.
They are helpless.
And all that.
And Cyril, as we begin to coast home, recall late Professor Akunyili's tango with fake drug barons.
Yes, and the fact that I think in Akunyili's own case, excuse me, was that there was leadership that gave her the room.
Yeah, to operate.
Today, look at how a laudable project like the SPIP just wound up hopelessly, and years down the line, we're hearing that this was what was really going on behind the scenes. I think that with better leadership and purpose.
In the Obasanjo days, we had things like you are using the EFCC to chase enemies.
Yes.
That was corruption, fighting back.
Sure, it was. Although in some cases, the EFCC also went beyond this bound. But whatever the case is, something was being done.
Yeah.
Ever since Nuhu Ribadu left, who came, was it Farida Waziri or Ibrahim
Waziri came before Lamode.
Yeah. You know, if you look, the momentum has really gone down. What you see today is just they're going after Yahoo boys and all these kind of things. In my opinion, what must happen is Nigeria is at the point where only the president, it will seem, can save the country, or only a president who means well will appoint people and give them latitude and say, look, like it's done in America, institutions should speak, not individuals.
Yeah,
recall non-state actors.
Yes, you can imagine that. Yes,
you can't support that.
Gentlemen, but recall that Transparency International was founded with two Nigerians on the board, yeah. Obasanjo and Obi Eze Kwesili.
So what must happen is that,
and we dropped the ball.
No, sure, of course we did. Those guys did it, so they joined in the same way. The likes of Okonjo-Iweala and others, all even those who are on President Biden's cabinet, who are there on their personal merits, because of what they symbolize or represented. But in Nigeria today, the point I'm making is that there must arise a president who means well for the country and who will appoint the best men for the toughest jobs, and then give them room to do the job the best. They need to do it. You said fighting corruption is dangerous. I agree, but it's not impossible.
Can you be your own man? That's the question he asked.
It is possible.
So you are saying that what Nigeria
he wants a president that will be his own man.
Yes.
Through and through.
Yes,
that will be his own man that will be able to fix the country and then face the consequences of
thereof
and bring back confidence to the everyday man.
Of course, because you see, the reason common people know when their country means well. They know when their nation is on the path of progress. They know when things are working. They know when their country is worth dying for. We have soldiers fighting. We have people fighting with Boko Haram. The guys had his thigh lacerated or something. He was going from office to office begging for arms and for support to go and do surgery overseas. And more people should go and die. How do you even look at what we're talking about? The suicide bombers have returned to Nigeria. Do you know that if you walk among the locals very well, they know who is who. But they also know whether the country, but they also know when the country is a serious country. Otherwise, they come and bomb in Nigeria, climb the mountains, travel back and run to Cameroon to go and hide. Okay, if you want to, the best way to fight crime is by prevention. How do you prevent it? There will be locals who will give you information when who is going where,
and you act promptly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you fail to act, when those who come to give information are now handled and killed, why should not come out? You are discouraging good. That was why this man was in Julius that said that because chastisement has been rebuked, he is hiding his head when he sees what is wrong.
Yes.
And I remember you talked about Julius Caesar, and we in taking the thing home. When Caesar was going up the steps, stunned to his left, saw Spurina, the old woman that predicted his the Ides of March. And Caesar told the woman, "Yes, Spurina, the Ides are here." The woman said, "Indeed, but they are not gone." So, corruption is here in my country. Is it gone? Will it go soon?
It's not gone. It's permanently being incubated and it's being hashed every day. So for me, I think we have been overrun by corruption.
Seriously.
Yes. So now we're talking solution. How do you curb corruption? What platform or what prophylactic? Is it prophylactic? Okay, prevention. What must you inject in the stratosphere or the ecosystem that will shrink the virus that corruption has bathed in our country? What must we do?
Well,
I think
parents must go back to shunning wealth without work.
Yes.
And you remember the 7 sins,
Yes.
enunciated by
Mahatma Gandhi.
and so on.
There must be, the country must, as much as possible, create employment or create an enabling environment, because it's when people
Then
are
not to say that all unemployed people in the country must be crooked.
Yes,
He doesn't say so.
They shouldn't be crooked. For the love of country and for patriotism, we should advocate that people should, adopt the moral principles that advances and enhances a nation. And that will be integrity, discipline, focus, forthrightness, and just look out for the brotherhood of man that transcends the sovereignty of the nation.
The late Mark Twain, or Sam Clemens, if you like, talked about support for country and government. You have a choice.
Yes.
You do. Now, the quote has come to mind. It says, "The name of Cassius honors this corruption. Therefore, the chastisement hide its head." The name of great men and big men must not honor corruption anymore. But the way to do it is simple. If you set an example of at least 3 major names in this country, the rest of them, they will take cue.
But gentlemen, you remember that in Colombia, the government and the country thought it was time to call the bluff of what's the man's name? Pablo Escobar. And they went to town and called his bluff.
And they did it.
They did it.
So here we'll make a clarion call, or we ask that perhaps we should send a town crier because the National Assembly is supposed to get us make laws to fix this, accomplish it, largely so, allegedly or whatever it is. But if the larger assembly, that is the assembly that send the assemblymen, decide to come together.
If it is possible to send honest men to the assembly.
Yes, when would this larger assembly assemble and send the town crier to make that call?
Okay, so we must go now. Let's apply the brakes here, but not before thanking Cyril Labaku for your time.
My pleasure, citizen.
And Barrister Evan Sufeli for his time too.
Thank you very much.
Let the debate continue. But the agreement here is corruption must not overwhelm us. It is created by man and can't be destroyed. I'm out of here. Until the next time, bye-bye now.
Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.